This afternoon, I want to join Assistant Secretary Nuland in welcoming our very distinguished and special guest, President Joachim Gauck. I also thank all of you for joining us here today as we officially take into the Department of State a very tangible, and if you've seen it downstairs, I hope you had a chance to, and that's why we're running a little bit late. I apologize. We were down there admiring the section of the wall, but it is a very large piece of history, and such relics of the past are obviously priceless. Speaking for myself, I'd much rather view one than be one. My friends, in receiving this unique symbol and memorial of the wall itself, the Berlin Wall, we, at the same time, pay tribute to an indelible partnership between two great countries, and inevitably we think back to an era when an event like this was literally beyond belief. We recognize now, even more than we did in 1961, that the building of the Berlin Wall was both an act of hostility as well as an humiliating admission of defeat. From ancient Rome to medieval China, we know of civilizations erecting barriers to keep adversaries out. But never before had a government found it so necessary to brick their citizens in. Almost 26 years have now passed since the wall was brought down by courageous people on both sides. Today, pieces of the barrier can be found in every corner of the globe, from Australia and Argentina to Canada and South Korea. And this department is blessed to have a place, the U.S. Diplomacy Center, where we are able to receive and display historic gifts. And I want to join Toria in really thanking personally and with the deepest appreciation all those of you, whether individuals or corporate sponsors, who are supporting the center now with your contributions. And I'm not saying that to encourage you to give more, though obviously that is always welcome. But I just want to say thank you profoundly without asking for the more. It's only because of you that we're able to have events like this and to receive on behalf of the department, but also on behalf of our country, a segment of the wall personally signed, as Toria just said to you, by those individuals who played key diplomatic roles in helping to bring it to rubble. These bold leaders include United States President George H.W. Bush, Soviet Premier Gorbachev, German Chancellors Kohl and Merkel, Polish President Walesa, Lech Walesa, and former U.S. National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft. Now, we're particularly pleased that Brent was able to join us here today, and I asked him when he was looking at the wall if it brought back a few shivers, and he said yes, absolutely. I know some of you have heard, and maybe you've heard it too often, about the time that I spent in Berlin, a short time as a young kid. And my father was in the Foreign Service. They were serving as the legal advisor to the High Commissioner of Germany, James Koenen. And I was about 12 years old, 13 years old, and I loved riding my bike. I did not fall and break my leg back then. And I rode it all along the lakes, around the lakes, up and down the Kurfürstendamm. I remember riding past the Reichstag all burnt out, riding back by the Führer's bunker that had been blown up, and the Brandenburg Gate, and all of these great memories of that time. And I was curious, and one day I exercised the privilege of a diplomatic passport, and I rode through the checkpoint into East Berlin. And though still a child, I really could tell immediately, and I found it very foreboding, the difference between the East and the West. The East was drabber, darker, the clothes were darker, there were fewer cars, there was a grayness, and I felt this sense of something that actually frightened me. And I turned around pretty quickly and went back. I didn't linger long. I had the choice of going back. A lot of people obviously did not have that choice, and many people lost their lives trying to exercise it later on. Even as I was pedaling around East Berlin that afternoon, families like that of Joachim Gauck were living outside the circle of freedom. But today, as we look back almost a quarter of a century after German reunification, we can take unbelievable pride in the relationship between our two nations, which have forged through decades a healing and a building. To the United States, Germany is a trusted ally, a partner, and a friend. And to those of us here today, it is a privilege and a pleasure to welcome the revered President of our great ally, Germany, Joachim Gauck. And there are three most significant parts of this challenge. One, all of the world's fisheries are either overfished or about to be overfished. There's so much money in so many countries, so many people, every restaurant you think of, in every city in the world